Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting on this Monday, July the 11th, 2022, approximately 7:08 p.m. Ms. Derry, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Casey Brown.
Here.
Rob Powell is absent. Ralph Baker is absent. Benny McDaniel.
Here.
Tim Terry is absent. Lance Terry. There is a quorum with the addition of the mayor.
Thank you. If everyone would please rise, we begin our meeting tonight with a pledge of allegiance led by Chief Bill Dawson and a prayer by Danny McDaniel, which I'm just now asking him to do it. So.
We're going to different order this time.
No, I'm sorry. Actually, the other way around.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Father, for our lives, for all the many blessings that are ours to enjoy. We thank you, Father, for this great community that we live in. We ask your prayers, Father, upon this community and upon this meeting. Pray that we will conduct our business in a civil manner. We pray, Father, for all the men and women who wear badge. We pray that you would guide them and watch over them. For the men and women who wear this nation's uniform, Father, we pray that you would guide them, watch over them, keep them safe. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. While I'm thinking about it, and follow the prayer, I'd ask that you remember our Fire Chief, Stuart Ryan. He'll be traveling to Tulsa tomorrow for some surgery too, so keep him in your prayers and his family. We appreciate that. At this time, I would ask the council to consider approving the minutes for the June 6th, 2020 regular council meeting and the July 5th special call city council meeting.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second?
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kimball. Mayor Kimball.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. Terry.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is bid opening. Mr. Jeremy Shores is here from Hawkins and Weir. So I'll let Mr. Shores take over.
Mayor, Mr. Henry, Council, appreciate the opportunity to be here again tonight. Tonight we're opening bids on the Indian Hills Sewer Rehabilitation Phase 3 project. They're south of Denver Street, kind of along Hester Creek there. So the first bid that we have tonight is from Forester Incorporated.
Tom's not supposed to have shirt off.
I know. Yeah, it's just my age. The bid is accompanied by a bid bond in the amount of 5% of the bid. They submitted a bid price of $405,793.00. $405,793.00. The second bid is from Howard Company Incorporated. Their bid is accompanied by a bid bond in the amount of 5% of their bid. And they've submitted a bid price of $301,467.00. $301,467.00. The last bid is from Greenwood. It is also accompanied by a bid bond amount of 5% of the bid. And they submitted a bid price of $367,621.00. $367,621.00.
No bid from Horseshoe.
There's no bid from Horseshoe. We'll take these bids back to our office, prepare a certified bid tabulation, and then provide the city with a letter of recommendation. Again, we appreciate you guys, and look forward to another successful project.
Thank you, Mr. Short. This is a continuation, this is a question and or statement, continuation of sewer improvements over there in that neighborhood, so we're excited to see that take place out there, and anxious to get that report back so that can start beginning construction. Okay, so next on the agenda is recognitions and acknowledgements. I do want to recognize the Friends of the Library. You guys need to come every time because you just right up to the room, right? So, Ken says no, he doesn't want to come every time.
We're friendly.
Sir?
We're friendly.
You are friendly, yes, I can tell. Well, thank you all for being there, and everybody else. We got a good crowd tonight, so appreciate that. Committee reports. Everybody pretty much has submitted the report. I can tell earlier this afternoon. Again, as always, I say if you don't see a report that you are looking for, let me know or let Danielle know. We'll track that down for you. I don't think anybody's here from those committees necessarily. Joel, did you want to speak on behalf of the parks or anything this evening?
Unless they have any questions.
Okay. Good to see you out and about after your surgery. Takes here. Mr. Cole, do you want to address anything at this
I
time?
think there may, if stuff goes on here, I think there may be enough to talk about.
Okay.
Much more with it.
Okay. Citizen forum, we have two gentlemen that have signed up this evening, and as the rules are, you have approximately 5 minutes. We can fudge a little bit here or there, unless it's Mr. Hamilton, we'll cut you short. Of course, but first off is Mr. Ken Hamilton. If you'd like to just state your name and address as you do, appreciate you.
I can do that. Ken Hamilton, 1400 Thistle Circle. I'm here tonight as the chairman of the Sebastian County Library Board, and also, as our shirt indicates, with Friends of the Library. And so, just want to clear up a few issues that there's still some confusion. I just have a few statements to make and a few questions. The situation that exists now is we have a county library sitting on county-owned property in the city limits of Greenwood, and Greenwood furnishes the water and sewer. What the proposal is moving to a new project where the county will own the property that's been donated, the county will own the library, it will be inside the Greenwood city limits, and we're asking Greenwood to help furnish utilities to that property. So it'll be the same arrangement we have now that we have then. There's no such thing as a Greenwood city library. Never has been, never will be. It's always been a county library to serve South Sebastian County. Fort Smith has a city library. We don't have a city library. We can't afford one. It's a county. We need to keep that in mind. We serve South Sebastian County, Lavaca, Hartford, Hackett, Mansfield, and Greenwood. That's what the library is all about. We're in the Greenwood city limit that suits us fine because it's the biggest city. So our question, and we don't know when you're going to vote or how you're going to vote. Here's my question to you, is why would anybody oppose getting utilities to this $5 million plus just for the library, not counting what the rest of the development's going to be? Why would somebody oppose this project? I came up with 4 reasons I thought might be legit. And again, not knowing your thoughts or how you would vote. First would be political. I have a political reason for voting against it, but we have worked very hard, and I've been on the board off and on for over 30 years. We work very hard not to make the library a political issue. We try to keep the library a non-political issue. It's for all our citizens. It's not something we toss around like a political play toy. The second one could be financial. Do you think it costs too much to get the water rights? I don't know. I put down $250,000 just as an estimate for me. And do you think $250,000 is too much to pay to invest in a $5 million library project plus whatever project is going to be worth when the rest of the development happens? Do you think it's too much money? And do you know what the total curb project will be worth to Greenwood once it's completed? Is it going to be worth what it costs you for the water rights? Third one could be personal. Maybe you just don't like it for your own personal reasons. Only you can answer that. You have personal reasons against it. The fourth one is philosophical. You just don't think the library is needed anymore, and you don't think Greenwood needs to expand out there, and you don't think the library needs to be on that side of town. So philosophically, you're opposed to having a library out there away from where it is now and seeing development around it. So it could be political, it could be financial, it could be personal, philosophical. We don't know. We don't know. So whatever your reason, if you vote against it or if you vote for it, I have a friendly invitation for you because we are friends. Okay? What we ask you to do, whether it passes or doesn't pass, we would ask anyone who's opposed to it to meet with the library board, friends of the library, one member of the quorum court, the county judge, and sit down with us and explain why you're opposed to it so we can learn from you. Okay? That's an invitation. If you vote for it, vote against it, whether it passes or not, we would like to talk to you to find out your thoughts on the situation. So, it's a friendly invitation. Like I said, Mr. Mayor, we're friends, right? Friends of the library. So, we want to be friends with all of Greenwood, all of Sebastian County, of the mayor, the city council. But if we get information that this is never going to pass, we got to make other plans. We can't wait forever for this to happen. Now, I've waited 40 years. Another couple of weeks or a month may not make a difference to me. It could make a difference to other people trying to develop it. And I think I said this last time. Some people look at things as they are and say, why? They look at things and they say, why? Other people look at things as they're not and say, why not? So the question is, when you drive by 71 out there in Kinsburg, and you see that shale mound with the shale pits over there, you look at it and say, why is that here? Why hasn't Greenwood done something with that? Why is that eyesore out there? Why hasn't somebody done something? Those of us that are promoting this look at that and say, why not the library? Why not the development? Why not make this beautiful? Why not make something that Greenwood can be proud of as Greenwood expands towards 71 and toward Highway, or Interstate 40? So, we see a new library in the center of it. We see a multi-million-dollar project. So I ask each one of you, what do you see? What do you see? So whenever you vote, remember, you have a friendly invitation to explain to us how you voted and why you voted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Appreciate you. I'll take this up. I didn't sign up on the citizen forum, but I want to go ahead and speak for a second. I'll take this opportunity to reiterate what I've said for several months. I am 1,000,000,000% behind this project. I think it's the thing to do. I think it's good for Greenwood. I think it's good for the county. I think it's good for Greenwood. I think it's good for the county. I like to repeat myself in case. I think it's just wonderful, and we're getting so close to making the helping with this move along. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a second when we get to those line items. But we're getting close. I promise you. So thank you again for coming. Appreciate you. We also have another gentleman here, Mr. Meeks, if you wouldn't mind coming up and just state your name and address and then why you're here.
Yes, my name is William Meeks. It's 1025 East Nashville Circle. I'm here just to kind of express maybe trying to get city water and the reason why I believe I should be able to get city water. I bought a piece of property, it's 1006 Nashville Circle, which contains 20 acres. Has a house on it, which has city water now. I plan on building behind it. So I talked to some Dale about whether I'd be able to get water or what. And so he told me, well, you need to go to Tim Posey. And if he says there's a line there, because there's already a city meter there, there's a line that would handle my house, then we could do it. And so I got to Tim Posey and said, yes, there's a 4-inch line there, and 2 more houses. So at that point, I went on and come back and talked to Sunnyvale about this, and he said, well, you need to get your perk test, show that to Don Oliver. So I went and done that. Well, after that, I kind of didn't really talk much about it. I just assumed it was a go-ahead plan. I needed to get me a builder and go on from there. So I thought, well, I don't want to, but I need to get a licensed builder. So I hired me a contractor, which I assumed was legit, okay? And I've got the paperwork here and everything. It shows where he was going to be liable for getting all permits and everything required to have water. The builder knew where the line was. The builder actually used a plumber from the city of Greenwood that actually does work here in Greenwood. Well, a little time went on, they just kept collecting money, and things just started looking like it was going south. So I tried to talk with the builder about this problem, and he really wouldn't talk. He just said, I'll get my plumber to fix this, I'll do this and that. So finally, I kind of got to the stage that I felt like something was going wrong. So I got this Hall Engineering, which is out of Little Rock, to come down and just check everything out in the house to see what was going on. Well, they went through and they found plumbing issues, framing issues, concrete issues, all kinds of things at that point. Well, on top of that, they never, even though they knew where the water was, and being a city plumber, should know what rules the city has for it in order to connect to them, even though the builder wasn't from the city. That, you know, this is what you need. This is the permit you need. I'm here. I do it all the time in this town. I don't know. But they didn't do any of that. So at that point, I said, I got Coleman Hall. They brought out bi-metal or bi-state drain, state inspector, which is Marty Harris, city inspector, which is Don Oliver, Daniel Mayo, which was a plumber, because he had to go through it because they watched they running images through the plumbing to see what was done wrong, what was required to be fixed, and all this. So at that point, I'm kind of held with trying to get an attorney and try to find out what to do next, because can't let this guy go on and he's not going to fix it. So no other builder, I tried to get builders out there, and this was during COVID started up, so that was another issue. And all builders, when they walked up at it, they were like, I'm not touching this. So I'm kind of on my own to get, and that some of it was done by, like I said, some of it done by Hawkins and some of them by Daniel Mayo, but I kind of done some of the front had some friends we tried to get it back to a livable house, because I couldn't just tear it down like everybody would. But I've come back and tried to talk to the city about water and failed every time. But I feel like I've got on the right start and tried to get all this. My builder let me down and kind of dropped it. And I just need some help and assistance to go further if I could. And that's kind of just what I'm here asking for.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hicks has been in my office probably 3 or 4 times trying to discuss this with me, and I'm trying to lead him in a direction that can be helpful. And what we haven't done yet is sit down with the wastewater commission to get their take. There is an ordinance that obviously council is aware of that allows the city to provide water outside the city limits under they have that discretion. So I don't think anybody's necessarily wanting to do it.
But I thought you said it was in the city limits.
The property is in the city limits, but when I built the house, it's probably 30 to 50 yards out of the city limits. I'm just right on.
So the house wasn't permitted? I mean, all this work.
Correct. The builder did not get any permits at all.
There's no permits because it's not city.
Right.
So all these inspections, things didn't happen.
If I could address the county.
Sir.
When this first started, the gentleman came in, and I think Don had noticed him building back there and advised him that you're not in the city limits. So, you know, you need to come in the city limits, you need to get permits, and once you do that, then you can count on to city water. And the reason that he's having so much trouble with this construction, from my opinion, is it was never permitted, never inspected, so it was being built haphazardly, And that's the reason for permits, and that's the reason for inspection. But the property is outside the city limits, and he was advised from day one that he would not be allowed to get water until he came into the city limits, but he went ahead and continued on with his construction. And I, knowing that one of these days, he would be standing here saying, I need your help. And so, again, permits and inspections are for the people that are building. It's not for the city. It's to keep this kind of thing from happening, from bad plumbing, bad electricity, bad construction, and for us to guide people through the way that our ordinance states that to get water from the city, you need to be annexed. And they didn't go that direction, and now he's facing the consequences. So.
Kind of like you state, just, not at first, I was not given that advice, but I'm going to debate that. But when Bill said, he was supposed to follow me down that line, hire building, which put me in this situation. And did not get all the plans and stuff. And I do agree, the builder should have, this should have been done. But it kind of put me at the spot where I've got all this money in it, and I can't tear it down, I can't just give up, and I can't get anybody to follow through to do anything else. So, I mean, I'm stuck at what do I do? So.
Mr. Meeks, I know you answered me in my office before, and we talked about it a little bit. Are you, would you consider being annexed in, or follow that process of becoming within the city?
Consider it.
Okay.
I prefer not to, but I mean, as far as needing the water, yeah.
Right. Well, the ordinance that I referred to indeed exists, but it certainly is not just flippantly, and I don't mean you at all. It's an ordinance to help these guys make a decision based on if there is a situation. And I can't remember how it reads, but it's very specific about the situation, so they can make that decision. But and I'm not, council, you want to discuss it a little bit, or you want to just hear it and then get back together?
I'd like
Any
to
questions or thoughts?
Talk with, the department heads, and water commission, and just get a little more information myself.
Mr. Cole's like, really pretty again. That sounds, does that sound like the consensus?
So I've got paperwork that sometime you wanted to see it, showing the steps I tried to follow to get it this way. So
And the ordinance, which we discussed last month,
Right.
I think it was, is really for a piece of land that's not contiguous, where someone's wanting water, but they're not able to be annexed. In this property, I don't know specifically, but it sounds like that property doesn't meet that.
No, I can't remember the specifics either. I don't know if anybody has it handy. I doubt if we do, but it's something to be looked at. And I think it was written for a reason. Again, I'm not saying specific necessarily it's to fit this scenario, but it does have some leeway. But I would encourage Mr. Meeks to consider coming in and just making it easy for everybody. I think it's important, and we did talk about this, and I'll let you know if one of the wastewater commission meets, maybe that's a good step to go to. So something you'd like to hear from Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole's our chair of that commission, so I'll stay in touch. Yes, sir. You do that. Thank you for coming. Financial report, Mr. Marsh.
Okay, the first thing I want to mention is in the key financial data that there's a little bit of a timing difference. I went out of town on July 1. The end of the period of time where the June data could come in would have been July 1, and I was not here to record that. It does impact the cash flow, and it does impact our net income as you see it in the report. And that's because that 1 day's worth of transactions is not recorded. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on what those numbers would look like with the recording of mostly cash transfers in from the water, sewer, city sales and use tax funding of capital projects. So first, city sales and use tax revenues Like it shows, we budgeted 6%. We did have a really good pickup. Same period, June over June was 11.2% growth. That gives us our year-to-date cumulative at 7.4. Great rebound from what it was last month. And our cumulative growth above budget is 1.4%. So there's a major rebound in that city sales and use tax number. As far as county sales tax is concerned, we're continuing with a very strong same period over same period of 14.2%. We budgeted 10% growth, so our cumulative is 15.2 or a 5.2% increase. A&P, we had a rather interesting month of May where you saw a major decline in the A&P. That had to do a lot in the fact that several of our larger paying AP vendors didn't come in until after the first of the next month. So the rebound that you're seeing here is really good. A&P tax budgeted growth is 10% is what we budgeted. Same period over June over June was 10.82%. Cumulative for the year is 6.5%. Now that is still 3.48% below our budget. There potentially could be a little bit of a growth stagger in this with one of our vendors that is not in right now operation as a result of the flood. That vendor is one of our top 6 revenue producing, A&P revenue producing vendors. Just want you to know they're actually number 5 on the average. So the rebound in that growth might take a little bit of a more time. I don't know exactly what period they're going to planning on coming back on board. But we're down 3.48% from budget. Still a growth, 6.52% is not where we thought they would be. That will also impact amounts of distribution to the Parks Department, just FYI. As far as cash flow is concerned, you'll see we had a net decrease in cash of $1,167,000. That's a little bit misleading. The decrease was only about $500,000. There was a reason for it on the cash flow statement that I produced for you. The transfers out was $720,000, and that's where we shift money from one fund to another fund. We do that at the end of the month to cover the city sales and use tax expenditures for water sewer primarily. All the items that water sewers sales tax pays for through the operation through water O&M and sewer. The problem was that check was run at the end of the month on the 30th. And the first is when the revenue would have been recorded, which was the $507,000 that we transferred out. And it didn't get reported in the transfer inside of the cash flow statement. So it's really, when you look down at the $1,100,000 decrease, it's only $500,000. Our net increase in cash, it shows 126. You can add $500,000 to that. And our current cash fund balance was $15.9 as a result of our decrease in the cash flow. Again, you can add $500,000 to that, you're still over $16 million. As far as the net income is concerned, the same thing would apply. The net income adjusted for the extraordinary item shows $503,000. It's going to be off by that transfer of $500,000, so it's really right at $1 million. Capital expenditures. We've adjusted the capital expenditures and improvement budget up by all the budget amendments that you've approved throughout the year to adjust the budget. That's reflected in that balance. That's why it's continuing to creep up every time you do a budget amendment. You're at $7,000,004 for the capital expenditures and improvements combined. Our actual year-to-date is $987,000 or 13.28%. It is creeping up. It's just not as quickly as you would have thought through 6 months, but now during the summer months, a lot of capital projects, a lot of large expenditures are being incurred and being paid for, especially
Do you have any projections end of year what that will be budget?
I haven't looked at that because I don't know where they are in all their processes. I just know that water sewers got a lot of them coming through right now that are rather large. And that's your capital expenditures scenario. As far as your solar is concerned, I I don't have an update from what you saw last time because the bill for the solar came in as I was out of town. So I haven't had a chance to roll that solar kilowatt hour usage into this report. So that will be updated for your next city council meeting. So you'll know where we're trending as far as solar savings is concerned for our overall usage of electricity. And we did have an incident happen while I was out with another attack or a fraud on our water. This time it was a water O&M account. It was a large expenditure that occurred that was fraudulent. Somebody intercepted one of our checks to a vendor and decided to duplicate it and made it to a different payee trying to buy a house. PNC Bank decided that the city of Greenwood wouldn't be purchasing a local residence, decided to investigate further and hold that transaction, contacted us, and we confirmed that it was a fraudulent check. And we have, we're not out any money as of today. We have been made whole by Farmers Bank on the transaction. So what we're going to do to resolve this is this week I am going to be meeting with Farmers Bank's IT department, and we're going to establish positively the positive pay program where those will no longer happen. Even if they intercepted a check, we issue a check issue register file to the bank. The bank clears all checks against what we say we issue. And there's 5 key points that they're going to be looking for: the date, dollar amount, the payee, the date, dollar amount, payee, a couple more that we can throw in there. And if it doesn't match exactly, they kick it back to us and say, is this fraud? We say yes or no, and it stops the transaction. It never clears our account, never hits our account. There's a lot that has to happen whenever these things hit. We have to actually close the account because we know the account was compromised. We have to reestablish the signers, and then we have to go and issue a report to farmers that shows what checks are still outstanding from the old account that we have to clear against the new account. So
We have to throw away old deposit books. and get
old
new.
deposit books, new deposit books. It seems to be becoming a big issue now in this day and age. That was the first time that it was a rather significant check amount that they were trying to do. We just want to keep you informed as to what's happening and what we're doing about it. So.
Any questions for Mr. Marsh? Thank you, sir. So the press is here this evening, Mr. Cente. To be clear, we did not buy a house.
We did not buy it.
And where was it? Chicago? Kentucky. Close. Yeah, we do not own a house in Kentucky.
And the banks are really sensitive now. They're really watching for this, primarily because there's a lot of it occurring. So they have put into place their fraud prevention analogies or their criteria for what kicks out, and they're doing a lot more validation now.
Thank you, sir. Agenda additions is next on the agenda. Chief, did you all get together, or you want to add that to the agenda? Okay. Tom, you're ready to kind of support or help with that item? Okay, not support necessarily, but give facts. So if the council would, or you can support. We'd like to add number 9, police department. What do you want to call it? Hiring. Yeah. Hiring discussion. How about that? Council okay with that? Okay. We will go right into old unfinished business. Number 1 is planning department. Mr. Bell, it's an ordinance annexing and rezoning Scott Branton property, 107 Ware Road, R1 to R3, third reading.
Mayor, Council, Sherry, this is the third reading for the project out on Ware Road, Mallard Crossing. Appreciate approval of this so that they can move forward on this. Again, we haven't had any complaints or questions on this from the people around it. It's a great project out there, and we appreciate the vote on it.
Make a motion, we place this ordinance on its third reading by title only.
Second.
Have a motion and a second?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Eric Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Lance Terry? Unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of annexation or rezoning of certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood.
Thank you. Planning and building, Chuck.
Second item is the rezoning from R1 to R5 for the Holland property. That's off of Joplin Street and Fern and Evergreen. That's the duplex and single family project that has been proposed down there. Very nice project. It's all the checks all the squares in the R5. And it's also on for third and final reading.
Make a motion to put it on for third reading, title only.
Second.
Have a motion, second, to place on third reading.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Eric Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood for further purposes.
At last month's meeting, Councilman Terry asked a question about the street, the plans for the streets on this neighborhood.
Yes, we met with Chief Bryant. Chief Bryant says that road as it exists right now is 12 foot. He said if we could get a 20-foot road, he would be satisfied with it. The mayor,
You got about Fern Street?
yes, Fern Street, excuse me. The mayor and myself, we talked to Chad about this road. We have a 50-foot easement, but he's going to go down there and check and see what the 20-foot, if it intersects with anything, somebody's garage or whatever, and stake it out. And so we're moving forward with plans to widen that to 20 foot. So this was for, in case we took the bucket truck down there, they would be able to put the outriggers out. And so Chief Bryant was good with that, and that's where we're proceeding.
And I know Mr. Grouse did just exactly that. We didn't get to, I was going to get with him this afternoon and failed to do that. So he's got it marked, so we can go out tomorrow and take a look at that and see how that affects adversely, possibly that affects some of those homes there. So that's our plan.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next item is the rezone from R1 to R5 for the Whipper property. And this is the property off of Denver Street, where we reparceled a lot next to the Denver Street Baptist Church. The proposal is for 2 duplexes back on the back side of the lot, on the portion of the lot that we reparceled.
I'll make a motion to place that ordinance on its third reading by title only.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to place on third reading by title only.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Eric Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Lance Terry? Unanimous. An ordinance amending ordinance number 22-13 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood, amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood for other purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Number 4 is ordinance authorizing water tap outside city limits on property owned by Farmers Bank, second reading. I think Mr. Posey spoke on this last month. Would you mind, in case they have questions? Sure. Further questions maybe on this particular item? Anything, gentlemen, on this?
I hate this, just for the record, but I have a suggestion that on this, that we add a section to this that says if it is able to be this property, if the property next door becomes a city, this property needs to come into the city as well.
Yeah. It's very unique, and I tend to agree with you in regards to not serving outside the city limits. This particular, as we stated, they don't have the ability to annex, and so it's a good case for this. When that property could be changing owners, it could be, Mike would have to weigh in on that, that could be kind of sticky.
If they don't want to, right, it has to go up to a vote of the people.
Pardon?
If the property owner didn't want to be annexed, then it would have to go to the vote of the people or something.
I mean, if you did this in such a way, couldn't you make it, I mean, it's almost, it's a request to be annexed with a stipulation. Stipulation being the property next door is annexed, right? We couldn't make them come into the city per se, and, you know, unless the property next door was annexed. But what we're asking from them is you agree to be asked to into the city limits if property adjacent makes you contiguous.
What happens if 2 generations from now, people die, change hands, and it's lost?
I don't know.
I think it'd be.
But, well, I mean, the other side of the coin is, if we do this and say, okay, I'm gonna provide you city services and you don't have to be in the city, what happens 2 generations from now when we've got 30 of these? You know, that was my thinking, is, that's why I just hate the idea of doing it, because it's gonna get lost in the weeds. And
Well, I don't think this is going to come up a lot. It's unusual, and again, we probably would have addressed this had we had things lined up at the time, because we were required an easement and talked about and discussed it. Certainly, we've traded easements for these types of situations before, so it's a little bit different. I mean, I would recommend you do it as is, because I don't know, I agree with Mike that adding that verbiage could be, and we could always, you know, make efforts to annex on our own, I think, but it is unusual. I think that it would be hard to keep up with and enforce as property changes hands.
I agree, personally agree with your 10, trying to make it easier, better, or whatever, I guess the word is. But again, that ordinance that we referenced a minute ago, which I wish we had.
Pull it out.
As you stated, I think,
507.
you got it?
Yeah.
That ordinance allows you to do it under certain circumstances. I'm paraphrasing horribly. As you said earlier, if it's contiguous, this one does fit, or is not contiguous.
Correct.
This one does fit that bill. I mean,
That's what the discussion we had last month.
Right.
This one, it does fit the ordinance. We have
Right.
ordinances right here, it's our discretion.
if you got it,
I mean, it's just, it's what we talked about
Right.
last month. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just,
okay. I guess just, I think the bottom of that ordinance really spells it out, if what I remember, I've read it several times. But what is allowed? What the discretion of the council has?
I mean, that person gets charged 25% more.
Yeah, there's that surcharge that's automatic, I think, anytime you go outside, provide service outside the city limits.
The city shall review the request to determine availability and feasibility, and if satisfied, the city may expand services to accommodate the request. May notify the applicant to petition to be annexed by the city, except as outlined above, for unusual and extenuating circumstances. The annexation process shall be preferred method of extension of services outside the city limits.
Well, I think the wording in section 3 and section 4 of the proposed ordinance, you know, really, to me, states the case for approving this ordinance.
Make a motion to move on to second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to place on for second reading.
As is,
This is,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
yes.
Mayor Kibble,
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes.
that's Terry,
Yes.
it's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 5,
Read.
I'm sorry.
An ordinance authorizing extension of water services to property located outside of Greenwood city limits, the finding of extenuating circumstances of the same, and other emergencies.
Thank you.
Mayor, just
Yes, sir.
as a clarification, you know, on the, on number 3, that was R1 to R2, right? I mean, on the agenda, it says R1 to R5.
Mr. Bell,
What is that?
he was asking about number 3. It
Yeah.
says R1 to R5. Is that a R1 to R2 on the looper?
It was the R5.
The ordinance itself says.
Ordinance says R2.
Okay, it should be R2 then,
So it is what it is on the agenda, I mean,
on the ordinance.
On the ordinance.
Okay, so it's supposed to be
Is that what-
R2 on, the agenda's wrong with it.
is that what we voted on?
No, you voted on R2.
Voted
So
on
that's
R2.
what it is.
We voted on the correct.
Yep.
Okay. Good.
Agenda's wrong.
Good. Agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Number 5 is kind of some housekeeping that we need to do, is a resolution adopting special county hazard mitigation program. I think we do this annually, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We don't, we screwed it.
No? Okay.
All I know is there's 158 pages.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah, all right. Are y'all glad I didn't print it out?
I read that first.
Make a motion, we adopt that resolution, Mayor.
Have a motion.
Mike, did you look at it by chance?
I've looked at it about 34 times over the years.
Okay, just checking.
I don't think it.
Second.
Have a motion and second to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Kibble?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Number 6 is approval of water rights purchase for 35.96 acres of land at Highway 71 and 10 Spur. And I'm going to combine number 7 with that, approval of agreement regarding extending water services for library. As much as I absolutely hate to table this, sorry, a couple of you knew, I'm going to ask that we table this as the council to consider tabling it, and I will tell you why. When I mentioned a while ago that we're that close, we're getting closer than we've ever been before settling our differences or not being able to come to an agreement with James Fork Water on said property. But the good news is, between Mr. Bell and I and Mr. Marsh, we've spoken to 3 different people at Arkansas Natural Resources in the last couple of months, I think. One being a young lady, Debbie Dixon, another being Josh Burns, and then I got a call the latter part of last week from the new director at Arkansas Natural Resources. His name is Chris Plazier, I believe, if I'm not pronouncing it wrong. Had a wonderful conversation. He heard about our plights, if you will, trying to settle our I'll call them differences, or trying to get water rights for Mr. Burton's property and 53 other users on Highway 10 Spur, and he has agreed wholeheartedly. I don't know that he's going to come as a representative from Natural Resources. We'll be here on the 29th, which is a Friday at 10 a.m. I'm not sure who all can be invited, but it certainly will be a sit down with our Wastewater Commission. We have notified Mr. Tate, and then James Fork Water Board. Hopefully, council can attend. It'll be a public meeting as far as I know, but I'll give you details as I get a little closer. I was hoping it was next week or tomorrow, but it's not. It's the 29th. The good news is they're coming. Everything that we would have agreed with James Fork, or would be agreeing with James Fork, or disagreeing with James Fork, would always have to go back to Natural Resources for their approval anyway. So the good news is they will be here as a mediator, if you will, and talking with us at the same time. I'm hoping very earnestly that there will be maybe a decision made that day, or at least these folks that are coming from Natural Resources will go This is fair. And let me make it very clear that Natural Resources is not coming to Greenwood just to appease Greenwood Water Department or bring the city of Greenwood. They are coming to arbitrate, if you will, and make both parties fair, make it fair for both parties and whole. So that's the best news we've had on this thing in a long time. We attempted this. I know Mr. Bailey and Mr. Bell and I went up to Little Rock 4 or 5 years ago and attempted this, and we didn't get anywhere with it. They didn't have any answers for us. There was not even a map to show water rights, which is unusual, I say, to say the least. So the good news is they're coming. The bad news is it's a couple weeks away. So hopefully we can get some things settled and we can get the library started and get whatever else is going out there on that property started and fairly to both parties. So we're moving forward. It seems like we're taking 2 steps backwards every time we take 1 forward, but I guess that's the way it works sometimes. So that's the reason I'm asking to table. I can present what we have here tonight to the council. I can't speak for them, but I'm assuming they want real facts before they vote on anything, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. So we're gonna have some real facts for them. Either we'll have facts that NRC is telling us in August, or they will go back to Little Rock, discuss it, and give us some facts, and then we'll call a special call meeting with council to get this squared away once and for all. Again, publicly, I am 1,000% for getting this library built, especially with Quorum Court's blessing and agreeing to spend $5 million in the city of Greenwood. I think that's amazing. Not to mention the other things that can happen out in that area. So, yes, sir. Have a motion to table 6 and 7.
Second.
And a second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Kinslow?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, and I apologize.
Are you wanting to table it indefinitely?
No, I want to move it to next month.
Are you guys?
Yes, sir.
Reduction in your motion, 30 days.
With the possibility of meeting prior to that, depending on the national. Okay? Thank you. Moving along, number 8 is finance resolution to amend budget for purchase of siren folders. My dad said siren. So it's cheaper.
Well, it says finance.
It does.
Bottom line
We're
is,
just throwing it at you.
last month you approved the sirens, and apparently you need to put them on hold. You know, the thought was they would originally go on 5 poles that exist. Problem is, we had to move them in order to cover better areas, and now they need to put 5 poles up there. So what you have in front of you, because it's greater than $5,000 for the pole and installation, you're looking at an $8,115 bill. That, before we pay that, you need to approve the budget resolution in order to accommodate capital expenditures. These poles will be capitalized as a cost of the sirens.
These poles will be what?
Capitalized with the cost of the sirens. They're part of the siren project.
I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Kinslow?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Number 9 is police department hiring discussion.
In all actuality, and I was hoping to never have to turn this question to you. Nice try. Retired. But some serious events have taken place in schools that have been concerned the way we've been doing things in the past, and that is school resource officers are under CID to help them investigate crimes so nothing's going on in schools. Well, in the past, that's taken them away from the schools, and we are down to 2 school resource officers instead of 3 that we had 2 years ago. So their job and responsibility is to be at school, not leave school, and that's a firm decision now. In case something were to take place, they'll be on campus. And I'm in talks with the school about providing a third one once again, hopefully. They want to wait on the session to see if the multiplier will include security in each student that they get the money for from the state prior to making that commitment. So I'm going to wait for them on the third resource officer. But to be known, they have 3 very capable security officers that do man schools and are highly qualified to do so. But at the end of the day, if something happens at the schools, they're not going to be asking the school where their security officers were. They're going to be asking where our officers were. So I can't allow them to go off campus any longer. So August 15th, they'll be on campus and won't come off unless they have to bring something to the police department or just something takes them off, whether it's vacation or whatever that may be. But we always try to fill in with taking extra patrols when they are off campus. But with this happening, it's not being able to utilize them in CID any longer. They can't supplement the detective caseload over there. And I don't have another answer for that. We sat there trying to brainstorm today. We have a detective that's at drug task force that's paid for by a grant to that drug task force. There's not an answer for it that I can do without coming to you and say, hey, I need another officer, and that's exactly what I'm doing tonight. And I'm going with the mayor hopefully soon to sit down with school to express the importance of us adding another school resource officer back. And I would like to see them fully funded. They get them for the entire time where we used to see them, and we don't. So security is bigger than ever right now, and I don't want to be left out in the dark when something happens, should it happen. Pray that it never does, but security is of the utmost importance. So our CID division is taking a hit and not being able to utilize them anymore. So I've asked Tom to gather how much that would be to add an officer, which I do want to add. At one time we were at 21, and we are at 20 now. That's 2.12 officers per 1,000. The Arkansas state average is 2.35 is state average. If we added 21 back, we'd be at 2.23. We'd still be under state average for officers per 1,000 for the state of Arkansas. This is something I anticipated. As a matter of fact, Joey stressed how bad he needs another detective today. And matter of fact, he asked me if I had a backup plan, should you guys say no? And there isn't a backup plan. Last time we were trying to aid them over there, put one person out on patrol at nights by themselves, and when things happen, that's the last thing you want is a guy out there by himself. So we haven't had an officer, I can tell you, since Chief Hicks was chief. And I'm not sure what year that was, and that's when we added school resource officers. And that's over this census, the last census of adding people, and just not coming and asking for people. And it's just the way things fall in place with the shootings that have taken place and things at schools, that it's not time to allow them to come off campus unless they just have to come off campus, in my eyes. So that's what I'm asking for. And like I said, the school starts August 15th, so we're kind of in a crunch. That's why I've come to you, ask you tonight. I would like to see the school allow what will be a third detective until we get something figured out with the SRO program. For them to allow him to have an office, but obviously he'll be coming and going, unlike the other two that stay on campus. But at least it puts someone on a campus for the bulk of the time they're doing their computer work. That's what I'm going to ask them to allow. And hopefully we can come to an agreement to allow them to pay for another officer. Just there's nothing else out there for us.
When are you supposed to hear from them?
I'm sorry?
When are you supposed to hear from them?
Well, the first thing I heard from them was that last thing I told you, that they're waiting on the session to see if the multiplier gets added for security, also for each student.
Will they find out?
that I'm not sure, but the mayor and I are going to ask to sit down, because I've sat down, not with John, but with Kevin, and I'd like to sit down with both of them and for them to hear us out. The mayor, when they went to the security program, I asked them to go into make themselves a police department instead of a security department. Because the security department did nothing but take manpower away from us that could have been police officers. So, I mean, if there's something they find, basically they're there with a gun and can't do anything to act upon it. I mean, they have to call us up there anyway. So it kind of took away our resources for up there. They have 3, like I said, very capable people up there that I would hire in a heartbeat with their qualifications. But there needs to be a police presence at the very least. I know Vancouver has at 5, and adding 2 more. But there's 3 campuses, 2 of them have 2 schools. There needs to be at least 1 officer at each campus in my eyes. So I mean, I'd love to see 1 each school, but I know the funds aren't there. So SROs are taking a hit, but not having a 3rd one, which I'm hoping the school will alleviate. And CID's taking a hit because SROs can no longer investigate crimes for CID. So I'm trying to address the CID part right now, and hopefully the SR program with the school.
Chief, they mentioned, no, this should be made, the DTF guys actually employed for us, right?
Yes, it is.
But that's federal grant money for his salary, correct?
Our money goes to the state, and the state distributes it to the departments.
So the benefit from that position for us is we get funds for that.
We get seizure funds occasionally. When we were involved with DEA, it was larger seizures along our investigations. And I mean, the attack on seizure funds is ongoing, and that may be a thing of the past. But they're not. I can tell you if they were large enough right now coming in from the DTF, we'd buy another car. We have a car down that took flood damage, and they towed it. So, but there's not enough coming in from that position. I'm not sure what to do with it, but he's doing great work, and I mean, it's paid for by them, so not a whole lot of skin off of our back. Obviously, he can't spend 40 hours a week investigating drugs in Greenwood, but there's a direct link, obviously, to Fort Smith to Greenwood. I mean, that's where most of it comes from, when it is here. And some of our investigations do start out here, but obviously they'll leave to Fort Smith once we arrest, usually a user here.
Okay. I want to point out that the DTF Officer reimbursement budgeted at $45,000. It kind of offsets just starting salary for a patrol officer. Right now, through 6 months, they've collected 50% of that in DTF officer reimbursement, which there is a lag because they have to bill it out and get it back. So they collected $22,352. Right now, sitting in the bank account for them, that's earmarked DTF control fund checking, it's $76,000. That's all in their financials. So there's a significant amount there that offsets, and it is on their ledgers, the cost of the salary. So he's pretty covered when it comes to the DTF and DEA overtime reimbursements as well. He also gets a grant. That grant, you get the DTF control fund is where you get the money from the asset recovery or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, they collected 77,000 less 3. So they spent 3,000 in expenses on it. So you brought in 76,000 in that.
That was from the DEA.
That's from the DEA expenses that they bring back in. So the DTF, DEA, it's self-sustaining and it's maintaining a significant revenue stream against his expense for the officer.
Also, he's the canine working, obviously a lot more than he can get.
That's my reason asking is, I mean, that's a substantial amount of money, but I mean, that's still more body. That could be, I mean, that's why I was wondering.
Well, we can't, obviously he's there. If he were to come back, we'd absorb, obviously, all that money. And which I do see.
Well, that's why I was asking what, if we were benefiting from that, and apparently we are. So I know just saying if we wasn't really benefiting from that, there's a one body out there that's typically belongs to us.
Well, we can take the grant money to pay for the salary instead of using,
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I will point out that it costs for an officer, a starting salary officer, what is the cost to the city for that? We did the calculation today, the salary, holiday, lot fee, FICA, SUDA, health insurance, the incentive pay for the $250 at the end of the year. In addition to uniforms, the workers' comp, the MLBs, and life insurance all added. The only thing that's not in there is equipment and training costs, which I don't have a dollar amount for. If you look at the equipment budget that they have and allocated to all the officers, it's about another $1,000 that could be technically earmarked for that. So they're just south of, when you add all that up, just south of 60,000 that it would be to the city. What is not factored in that is the hiring cost, which would include advertising, background checks, psychological exams, drug testing. That's not a factor in that because that's part of employee hiring. But, so that's what you're looking at as far as adding another officer in totality to the city. That's the cost.
and I think you would look at, we're about halfway, it was still, 27,000 for the remainder of the year.
For the remainder you're about half of that.
And then those add-ons that you just mentioned, one time, other than continuing,
No, they're
around
using the
5,000,
cost of the life
6,000.
insurance or anything.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about the uniforms and just get them like.
Right.
Just get them out with it.
Yeah.
I don't have that cost.
Okay.
They estimated at about $1,000.
But right now, you're trying to have 76 in there?
That's
Senior
that's
fund.
the senior
Senior
fund.
fund.
Oh.
So that 60 grand would have to come from the general fund, right? Tom?
That's correct. It wouldn't be 60 this year, because you're already halfway through the year, and depending on when he brings them on, you take the,
Well, I think you need to start with the school up there that's not, they're not hurting. So figure out how much they want to help, and then bring it back to us and just figure out what to do then.
We're talking about school resource officer, they're not gonna pay for our detective.
I'm just saying,
he's asking for a detective.
I'm just saying,
Currently, the city gets reimbursed from the school one full-time SRO salary. You fill it out every month.
and how many we got?
Two. We pay for one, they pay for one.
They used to pay half salaries on 2 of the
They
3.
pay for two.
They used to pay half salaries for 2 of the 3 that they used to have, and a full salary of 1. And now it's of the 2 they have, they pay a full salary, or another way to look at it is half salary of 2.
Wish I'll address with them, but, that's, has nothing to do with our CID needs. Their caseload, obviously, and there's 2 detectives when I started here 22 years ago. There's 2 detectives right now, and Joey has stressed to me that he needs a 3rd. That's why I'm here tonight. That's our old issue with them.
So I told the chief today when he came, we talked about this with Tom, and my 2 cents were to obviously bring this to council, let you guys talk about it, discuss it, and come to a conclusion at some point. And I mean, we're gonna, as the chief said, we're gonna sit down with the administration up there and talk to them about more help from them, the possibility of more help.
Well, their help so far is, that's the way most places do it around here. The school pays half and the city pays half. I haven't found anywhere where the school's paying the whole salary.
And I know no one sitting here, obviously, or in the audience for sure, wants to put anybody at risk in our school district. I know that for a fact, there's no question about that. I think I'm just asking the council to take a real hard look at this. Whether you do it tonight, or if you don't do it tonight, or you do it later, after we discuss with the school. But heaven forbid, I think it's upon us and our responsibility to do what we can to keep our kids safe. I mean, again, I'm not saying anything that everybody in this room feels, I know, so.
We're talking about two things, right? Two, school resource officer, let's put that aside.
I brought that up,
Chief
because I wanted to let
discussed
you know that that's where, I mean, they're there, they're full-time there, and they can no longer, two people that were helping with investigations will no longer be able to help with investigations.
So, let that linger for a while. And, I mean, as far as the CID, I mean, I don't feel like I can Monday morning quarterback this. You're the police chief, you know. And if Tom's telling us financially, we can cover this. I mean, I got no problem with it personally. I mean, I don't run the police department, so I don't know what your manpower needs are. I'm counting on you to tell me that.
Well, I just want to add this also, not that I wanted to bring it into it, but Joey's about to have carpal tunnel surgery on both hands, so CID is going to be done in person. And if you've had carpal tunnel syndrome, probably tell me how long each hand takes to heal, but he's got it on. So that is a little urgent need for me also, and want to bring it into it, but that's a factor that is also in my head, I want you to know.
Any further discussion or questions from council, or?
Are they supposed to vote to pursue this?
I think the chief is asking, I think the chief is asking for a vote tonight to hire or not.
It's just, obviously, we're talking it's mid-July and school starts August 15th, or I want to put this pressure on you tonight, or even come here and ask, we're in discussion.
Well, I'm like Lance, I'd like to kind of hear from the school, because, you know, what,
The school has nothing to do with it, nothing to do with it. Just tell me you're not going to give me an officer, and I'll be done. But no, I'm going to be here when you're asking for firefighters. Because I'll watch you at firefighters when you need them. For 18 years, we've had the same amount of officers. I'm asking for an officer because things are slim. Please vote either yes or no tonight.
With a question or comment, I think, from the audience.
So your
Dave, would you mind, I'm sorry to ask you, but would you mind coming up and just state who you are so we get you on the record?
Dave Cole, 727 Rockside Drive. Will your school resource officers be continuing to help with CID until school starts back?
Until school starts, August 15th. Yes, sir.
August 15th is the date that you need somebody ideally in place to start helping with this CID investigation.
Yes, sir. It just
We're asking for a CID officer. That's what we're asking for.
yes.
School resource officer will be addressed later.
I'll address that with school.
I have no problem with that. I make the motion to hire CID officer.
I'm going to second, we don't even work on yet. Okay? Don't even go there. I'm looking for help. Don't even go there.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Brown?
yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Council.
Before you go on,
Sir?
I want to ease their mind a little
Yes,
bit.
absolutely.
Real quickly, I want to let you know that through, they're budgeted right now $980,000 in salaries for the officers. For the first 6 months, they should be at 50% of that expenditure. They're only at 40%, they're 10% ahead of budget towards their salaries. So they've got the coverage in your budget for that officer. For the remainder of the year.
Thank you. Before we go into department reports, I would ask the council's consideration to go into executive session and have an employee situation I need to attend to. Council, hiring matter. I'm sorry, hiring of the street director, the street department.
I'll make the motion to go to executive session.
Motion and second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Kimball?
Yes. Move it back, so hopefully this won't take too long.
This is my mom. This is Joy Black.
That works at your house.
That's one? Really?
A lot of people showed up. They had the property next door.
How are you? Bob Purvis. Wow. You gotta go get her, We're gonna get there. Eventually we're gonna get there. Hi, buddy. Shake your hand, you all right?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Doing good.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. You kind of run these deals.
I just know it's one person, maybe two. You know what I'm saying? What?
Heard of they're all playing down there. They're calling it Waldron tomorrow. Huh? They told me still, he goes, football ain't got
Oh, thanks. You look beautiful. Always look beautiful. I miss your red hair, though. I was thinking about you the other day, how feisty you were when we first met.
Of course, I'm great.
You were feisty. But you're not.
You're
not. It's just front. People don't fall in love with you.
So they're about to be really good football games.
Yeah, how was that? Ooh.
My youngest son, James.
Oh.
He's at 18.
Did you say you're not interested?
Yeah. Well, so you take,
Joey, what did you say?
But they were good then.
She's getting hit on an ice cream social at church.
So it would have been right after lesson, it would have been like no more than.
Right. Right. That's all it takes.
And in CD, that's when you just turned coach.
All of them. All of it.
They're both over here.
It's fun. You're not.
He was putting things through, I mean, helping in the games, and it was exciting. Once and for all, it was exciting, just to have a little bit of morale, you know. You can ask the Greenwood coaches and players, and I'm not bragging. My son's football, he's as good as Greenwood.
Well, I'm not in charge of this, and I didn't even know that we were talking about this stuff, so, you know, it's good times. No, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, so I mean, we're wanting to meet. Like, most people don't think that they can ask them.
Lane's got rolled.
So. Well, they can run a little bit. He's the coach, but he has his wife.
while, David Miller, that worked with us. He's a great guy. They say he's a great guy, but he just don't have a whole lot of passion right now. But I think we can get it back in him. But you know, like, that's good. Like nice. I see. Yeah, I seen that.
It is.
They gave my boys a lot of shirts today. It was their first.
Yeah, now.
One of the boys came home, 18 roster. He was the first today. Yeah, Leighton Howard. When they went to the playoffs, they were undefeated. They beat Charleston. Then they went to Boone. Got beat. But they made a, you know, they made a good, yeah. And they had Ryan Sanderson. Maybe we can get some of that.
Dream, buddy.
That.
That's all I want.
You know, the thing is, what you'll find what we say, it's always but how these kind of bills, like again, it's not all about, you know, you gotta get away from it because it's not.
He was assistant director. They're on the list now.
We got to be done. That might offend some people. No. But they're already really fitting in better down there.
Well, that's because
It's a real
I don't believe I've met Jim Reynolds. Yes, ma'am, it's a pleasure. Now, are you?
And she graduated. Okay. Yeah.
25.
So the only thing that's
At least the place you since I started to see him.
yeah, it's him and Bill. But I don't know, I can't remember what.
That's right. 25.
It would have been before that. Yeah, he was older. So,
What's that? I thought it's.
we'll see. I know the pros down there, people's excited. So, well, you know, I can remember because your dad
The which one?
yes, and, you know,
That's my cousin Keith.
Of course, Brooks and Southern Steers. And the kids, and that's all Steers talks about. Is your dad, how he would go out there and have a big lady, and he cooked for them, and just had a good Christian lifestyle. Yes, yes. Well, they're out next to them.
Is there a wild hog out there with you?
We've never been back. They're out there first day. So, 30 kids, high school kids, you know. So, I think they got some good things going on. We'll see. I think, because I got 3 playing varsity this year. I got 8. That's why I got 3 that are playing varsity this year, plus that quarterback. They can rub off on the two like Greenwood. At football.
We need you.
Man, I mean, and there's really
We got a critter that's
specific things you gotta do. And they're gonna be able to, I think, see it, because Coach Cochran says he always tells the kids.
Yes.
Greenwood is Greenwood, and the kids don't really understand. They're gonna get to see it. And it's not gonna be beat down in their head. Wow, I didn't know. Wow, I didn't know. You know, they can do it too. Everyone can do it. Here's the deal. The difference that was mine. You know, of course I played, I always played.
it's always,
I'd like to see a site plan for
you'll come in and done away. I don't care if it's like, I don't care how we are, what grade we are. It's really good for it's just like, you see, first year, I mean, but you can see every game is closer. You can see we're competing the next year. Then that third year, they're all the way. Whether the semifinals or the playoffs, they go down and beat Rising. I mean, it's all the school.
It's Greenwood right now. It's 2 teams. It's his team. They're separate. I mean, it's like, obviously it's one team. But I think you're either defensive player or offense. You don't even need him. He's the leader, so in a way, he's supposed to be his defense over here. Well, and so when they're back, he was the one that got the offense. Coach Gilbert put a little bit in there, but Gilbert had to do it. Before we ran, he was our coach. She's not a surgeon. He's a great guy. My biggest love is better than coach. They didn't really get to know Coach Gill as much yet. Just now in varsity. I don't know what they think about us. They're only 3 years making fun of us. They just want to do something. It's just they're making friends and going. And you know, my oldest boy he could have been, he would be, could have been started. So we made our decision for all of us. When I tell people after I tell about this decision, everyone's disappointed that James not playing. He's going to have to be probably start this year. He's playing on varsity. He'll play both ways. They'll all touch the ball. All 3 of the boys. They'll get Jerry's. They need bodies. They need people, but so we're trying to give them bodies.
Back when I played, it was, I played offense. You know what I mean? And then we would play movement. And then, that was, we're talking about games.
I think he were killing
Greenwood.
Well, we played, so that was our game. And I mean, it would be a job, but then their coach, he put our and he's some of the most physical kids of 12 years of kids for basketball. Basically, like a little coach here, we get numbers in, so we'll be up for 2 weeks. We know we bring it together.
That's good.
That's the way we're starting.
That's good. But I think they're still kind of scrappy this year. They just need a little more, they need a little, you know, extra.
They need, I'll tell you what they do.
Yeah, they do.
And I kind of done away with, kind of wrote the bill off because it was just so that's pretty good. I think she got the principal. Yeah. And then so he's like, I'm done. He still is, but everybody's
Last year, in the middle of practice, they took one of his assistants in the middle of practice. They said, hey, you're done. What are they thinking down there?
Anyway, well,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
I'll have you come down there. I'm gonna come down and catch you. Go back and
say, this is ours. They'll point to it and say, this area is ours. And they'll make a map showing that that's there. I said, even their map that they provided, showing that they own that piece of property, the other area was 53. Most of those even though they don't show that that's in their district by their They show small corridors up and down the road, but they don't show anything that's in the
Oh, yeah.
He's still trying to get the maps corrected. Who knows? Economic development. Every room puts his own newspaper out there. He would be so prepared. He's not there. He's against. He's been that way ever since came back. He was full of when he was mayor. Now he's
Yeah, so then I had to go find one of those.
Sunny Bell. Very nice meeting you. I've worked with your daughter for some years now on different projects and different organizations, and always have enjoyed it.
For the most part. At least we're on the same side.
We've been on the same side for this whole thing. I don't know if there was any time that we ever opposed each other.
Sunny's logical person. Sunny's logical, objective and logical.
Well, it gets me in trouble a lot because I say what I think.
I need to do that, that's for sure. But some of this is it just feels like tonight we need to.
Always goes back to what my dad told me one time. He says, never trust a small-minded person in a position of power. And that's what we do all the time politically. Because these people, it's a scientific fact. If you ever get elected to public office, you become smarter than the people who voted for you. You ever know that? Instantly.
Yeah, it's true. That doesn't make sense.
And then all of a sudden, it's like,
Street Park, Chad is stepping down from his director. Yeah, he's still gonna be with the street department, he just doesn't want the headache of it being a director. Scares him to death, I can get up there and talk to him. I think you gotta get some of those, I'm not sure which one he's leaning.
Have fun.
And see. You gone?
Sunny says to me, you know, Have you talked to him yet? And he's... Oh. Can't do it. Okay. I would think so. They're not going to turn on. Still you are around here. They're going to turn on. So they, I really didn't. They really have to know they're
We have one more. Not you, but all three. Okay, I'd like to bring this city council back. I'll bring this city council meeting back to order. We will take no action on the meeting that we just had, so we'll announce something later to you. So, with that being said, we go to department reports and questions from council. Several are here. We got one of me department heads and trying to lead department heads. So, any questions or concerns or thoughts for any of the department heads? Wow. All right. Everybody's happy.
Can I ask a question during this?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Fuel prices, where they're at, if we don't do something to address it now, if you want me to limit patrols or whatever, I can make that decision to do so. If gas stay where they're at now, we're averaging $7,000 per month, and I think we budgeted maybe less than 4,000 something a month is what we budgeted, which has always been over in the past. So with gas where it's at now, I can either restrict them patrolling and only answer calls, or continue how we're doing, but I want to make it clear that we do that. Gas is looking at, if it stays or goes up, I think we're looking at $25,000 over budget for fuel. But I want to bring that to your attention now before it gets any further and make some adjustments if I need to do so.
I do not want patrols to be shortened or anything. That's just my 2 cents, and I know that's something old staple to say when you're talking about having to change the budget. I would put it upon Tom, as I do most things, to figure out a way to come up with some cash, some money for this, whether it's dipping in the county. I don't know what it's going to take, but I don't want to pull back on our patrols. That's just my 2 cents.
I would say we come back and amend the budget if we need to.
It doesn't look like the gas prices are going to drop, so I just.
No, I don't expect so.
They're going to get fuzz.
We did joke a little bit about putting him on out of patrol. I don't think you thought that was funny.
Bicycle officers.
Sir?
Bicycle officers.
Yeah, we used to have.
Mounted police.
We used to have none.
Well, feed's so expensive right now.
That's true. Never mind bicycles.
Yeah, corn. So, I mean, that's mine. The county, we got anything else?
I don't know if any other departments in that area are going over, but I'm clear that you are.
Correct.
Sounds to me about electric car.
Yeah, we talked about that too.
That's right.
One thing I did not mention that you will see under financials is after the flood happened, we established a new account, 68200, which is flood damage expenses, and all departments that are incurring any costs related to the flood are coding their costs to the 68200 account, so that we'll be able to tabulate exactly how much the flood cost the city as far as remediation is concerned.
Okay. And on that note, I would like to say that we, myself, and I think Sonny's talking to, I'm not sure who all, but Travis Cooper, who is our county, help me with that title, Lance? Emergency management guy. Travis is working with us, and we're working together. We keep reaching, we, the city, are still trying to find some help, some further assistance for those flood victims, those 54 homes that were in Greenwood, that were mostly over in that subdivision, and then a couple scattered around. So we continue to seek to get that. We did not, that incident has not been deemed a disaster due to the amount of money. It takes $542,000, a little bit somewhere, a little above, north of $500,000 to deem it that, and it fell at around 3 something. So it's an interesting calculation, to say the least, how that works, or the way they do that. So we're looking into it a little further. I'm not sure. We did the best we could. It was kind of a, not a knee-jerk reaction, but we got figures together as quick as we could to get to those folks. I'm not sure we covered all of our bases. We had, where's Hunter? We had 3 gentlemen here last week. One lives in Greenwood, one lives in Tennessee, one lives in Texarkana, who came. They're not in FEMA, but one of the gentlemen is a retired FEMA for years and years. And so we're visiting with those guys about a
Pre-event contract.
Thank you, pre-event contract, which will not do anything to help victims that we have now, but will certainly help. I mean, it just sounds a little too good to be true, to be honest with you. It's kind of like solar. But as Sonny said, it was the right thing to do, no matter if we make money or not. So this, so far, doesn't look like it'll cost us anything, and I'll give you much more details later. We're just planning ahead, and it looks like it's something that we can sign up for. And if there's ever a disaster, whether it be flood, fire, pestilence, whatever, tornado, they come in with their equipment and do what we had to do, we as on the street and other people had to do. Instead of us doing it, they can do it when we continue to do what we need to do with our water. So, in streets. So, I'm excited about that opportunity, see how that looks. I'll give you an update next month. But again, I want it to be known that we continue to do what we can to try to get some assistance for those folks that were flooded. We're even discussing with representatives from FEMA. Fort Smith is participating in this now. This is not certainly anything we're signed up for, but I'm looking into the possibility of FEMA providing a grant to purchase some homes, you tear them down, or you relocate those folks if they're renters, or whoever, whatever they are, you pay fair market price, and you get them in homes, and then you turn that into green space and or looking at doing. I've talked to the administration up there, and they're in the middle of it. I think they've got, was it 12 homes we were looking at the other day that we viewed or went to that area? So that's something we're really looking at to try to help. So we're not through trying to assist flood victims by any means. That being said, sorry, I took the department. So anybody, so Chad, did you want to bring them up to speed on what we're doing or what we're looking at on Hilltop?
Well, it's in the notes, if they have any questions.
Okay. So anything from any of these department heads? Bob, I haven't asked you in a while. You got something from the chamber?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to remind everybody, we're back to having Teacher Appreciation Day this year. We had to skip it for 2 years because of COVID. August 11th, one of the main reasons that people move to Greenwood is our school system. This is our opportunity to really show our teachers. So August 11th, Teacher Appreciation Lunch. It's going to be a good day.
Perfect. And I almost forgot, we're not through obviously, but Tammy Briley, would you please stand? Raise your right hand now. Tammy was in charge, as she has been for a few years now, of the 4th of July celebration, Freedom Fest, and something that Lance decided years ago that needed to be fixed. It's been fixed, and now, however many years later, it's a huge success. Other than the heat, a little crazy, but we had a great time. She was able to get our local star, if you will, Mr. Jay Burgess, to perform as a headliner, and I think everything was wonderful, and I appreciate everybody's participation, police and
It's
fire.
not just one person. If it hadn't been for every city department helped, so it's not just us.
Thank you. So it was great. Thank you for that. Danielle helped a little. Danielle helped a lot, as she does all things. So we'll go into the council forum.
Oh, I thought that was.
Well, that was me ranting. That was Mayor ranting.
I have an update.
Yes, sir.
Council.
Yes, sir.
I stole this thing out of the back room. I don't know what that to do with it now that I've stolen it. Borrowed. Yeah, I borrowed it. And I don't know that we need any action from you guys. Anybody, can y'all see that? That's
not a banana.
Yeah, that's a terrible, really probably rendition that was probably Tim Randy that said that, but we weren't trying to spend a lot of money to make a picture. We were just trying to make a point of what we're talking about. That's obviously the boat ramp in Mount Harmony Road. This is the bridge known affectionately as the Mayor's Bridge that came from Hope, Arkansas. It's been drug out of the woods over here. We've had fabricators look at it, and there's a few bent pieces, but they don't need them. They'll cut that down from, it's a 20 foot. It was a road, whatever, a highway bridge.
26.
So we've cut it down to walking width. But I have been talking, as you know, for a long time with the Cuthbert family. Tom Cuthbert, who worked here with the city for a long time in the water committee and all those kind of things. Cuthbert family has been very generous and have committed a good bit of funds to this. We have gone out, the mayor, Tammy, myself, Michael Wagner Coleman. Randy Coleman worked real closely with Tom Cuthbert when we had the water committee, and Randy Coleman is donating his time, his personal time as an engineer, and Michael Wagner Coleman. We are having to pay, I've got a bill, Tom got it today, for surveyors and some engineering that's being done. I mean, we can't ask those guys to work for free.
We did if they won't.
Yeah, we tried, but they said no. Jacob Burton was in here somewhere. Is he right there? He's back there. Jacob has very graciously offered to bring us a bunch of that shell that everybody likes to talk about out there at the entrance of the city. But again, we can't ask Jacob people to run track hose and burn diesel for free. So we're gonna spend some money there, but Jacob has been really involved in this thing. And we're ready to start moving dirt. Right now is a good time to be doing this. That lake is as low as it's been in a long time. So it's a good time to move dirt, dig out the shallow end of that by Mount Harmony, and kind of get that swamp out of there and use it. I've got what they call a bridge site survey where it's got elevations and all that. I meant to bring it, but I forgot. But if anybody wants to see any of that stuff, I'll be glad to share it with you. But we've set up an account. Tom has set up an account specifically for this. Tom Cuthbert Jr., that would be Tom Cuthbert III actually, isn't it? Tom III sent me a check and it's in that account. We're starting to spend some of the money. But Jacob has a good plan on how to do all this. We'll go in off of Mount Harmony Road on that north side, build a new road, and build a huge working pad. I say huge, I made that sound bad. It'll be pretty big though. It's a pretty good size working pad. Homes Erection will come down, pick all this stuff up, take it out there and assemble it on this working pad. Jacob will build basically a road all the way across the water and build these, whatever the things are called, the approaches. Thank you. So he'll build the one over nearest the boat ramp and then work backwards, dig out in the middle. We'll build a 40-foot wide approach, which we have to have for the crane to put his riggers out. And he'll lift the entire thing from the north side and swing it into place. So that way we don't tear up all the work that the parks folks have done on the promenade and the boat ramp and all that. We don't get on that and tear that all up. But I think it's a pretty cool project. Once we get the bridge in place, the approach there, then we will clean all that up and you're going to have a new parking lot for your trailhead. And then we'll leave that to the Parks Commission for how they want to finish that. If they want to make pavers up, or grass or whatever they want to do, we'll leave that to them. But, the money's all donated. We hope. We don't have all the money in the bank account, so we're sort of betting on the come here a little bit. But we got to get to digging dirt right now while it's time to do it. So our hope is this week, I talked to Randy today, we're going to go out and stake it so Jacob knows where the road is. The mayor has talked to the county about putting a pipe. They've offered to help us with that, by the way, Jacob. Might even give us a pipe, not sure. But we need to talk with them. But anyway, I just wanted to give you all an update on that, tell you that's going on. I don't think the votes needs to be had because it's donated money. I don't think it's a budget item or whatever.
Well, in expenditures, it will be anytime we take it in, if it's not budgeted. Right. We do need to have that budget resolution.
No, it's just we're a conduit for the handling of those funds.
Right, but the city's spending funds, right?
They're spending their funds. We're not spending city funds.
It's all
we're spending.
It's like the Doug Kinslow.
We're just being the facilitator.
The Doug Kinslow one wasn't a budget.
Well, I think if there's any money left in that, it'll show up on Tom's.
I would think that we needed it as a matter of record. That's my opinion.
Would you like French fries or?
Not whatever else.
We have donated funds that the city has now put into a restricted fund for this project. It's the bridge out of the lake. And so our question is, where Charlotte's concerned, understandably so, is do we need a resolution to spend those funds? We don't need a vote, I don't think, from council because it's not budgeted. We're not using city tax money. We're using donated funds. So.
But any funds that go through the city.
No, that's what I'm asking. So resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
So it would, how would you do that, Mike? As every expenditure, would you do that, or just,
I'll just come in each month and just ask how I can do the mayor's monthly budget through those expenditures. Or you can do it all at one time and say, hey, this is what we're going to spend this month, and every time get that approved.
I would think just a regular budget, and then this is
Just
how
do
much
the
the project
budget.
is. This is what we're spending.
Just do it for what was done.
yeah, I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
we've deposited 50,000 into the account, and, you know, hey,
Anytime we've ever had.
We're gonna
that
expend the
done,
funds.
something,
that's probably the way to do that.
documented that we're spending it on such and such. Information.
Easy fix.
Can we do that at August?
Put it on the agenda.
So if you get started tomorrow, don't bill us till after the.
So that's why I just wanted all that to be on record, that we're doing that, and talking about that, you know, that's what's going on.
And to follow, one little thing to add to it, and I know if you're not familiar with the trail out there, the trail is in existence. It's a multi-purpose trail that Mr. Lejeune got going for us a few years ago. As it stands now, you park in the boat ramp parking lot. You enter the trail near the water, and you literally have to walk out onto Mount Harmony Road to get onto the trail around this, what do you call that body of water? Inlet. Sounds good. And slough. So this will forever remove that walking out on Mount Harmony. You get to go on this 1931 bridge. And my request and all this, I know Daniel was on it too, is that this 1931 bridge at the end of the day look like it's been there since 1931. It will not look like that.
It's not gonna look like the photo.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
gonna be great.
I found today a picture that Michael Lejeune back in the day had kind of a,
Greenwood.
yes, of that area, and a bridge was in that spot to
That's
begin
fine.
with, and a parking area
In the parking lot with.
on that side, yes.
Okay, good.
So,
Jacob, you wanna say anything about any of that? Did we say it all?
Said it all.
Man, it's gonna be cool when it's done. Anything else, council?
We could ask about sidewalk.
Okay, so Jeremy, well, since you did, Jeremy Shores was here this evening, as you know. I ran out and grabbed him. We now have, Danielle, as always, is on top of this. So Jeremy was asking about a form that we need to get to RDOT. We understood it was already in RDOT's hands. It is a form that we explain how many of these easements that we had to pay for, how many were donated, or anything else about the easements. That document will be in RDOT's hand in the morning as soon as we get in, and she fills that out. And then we'll also copy that to Jeremy. We're hoping and praying, I guess it's weird to pray for a sidewalk, but at this point, that's where we are, is that once that document gets at RDOT hands, they're ready. According to Jeremy, we may be able to put this out for bid very soon. It's a long time coming, so.
but I'm also waiting on my 4 projects that are in, that's, RDOT is the reason we're not proceeding with mine, is because they just need to sign off on one project.
I think
And
you're
it's holding up for it.
everybody, we're hoping, I'm hoping to stand before you or sit before you next month and say, look out there at the concrete that we're going, so we'll see how that goes. 2, and I've already said this, I think last month, RDOT, I talked, I did it on my own to be in trouble or whatever you want to call it, but they will be performing a overlay from the square out to 71. That has gone out for bid. They were supposed to be open bids. I haven't heard back from Mr. Wiley at Little Rock, but that is to happen ASAP as soon as the contractor, whoever it is, I have my wishes that whoever that is, that overlay will begin soon. Instead of waiting to get this highway built, they'll start that, and they will do it at night. If I didn't announce that the last time, they'll leave it from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., not to interfere as little as possible with traffic. So
They're gonna fix that for a bit.
they are. This is my, that's what they tell me. To what extent, we'll see. So there's that. Anything else?
Second.
No, motion to adjourn.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Matt Griswold?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
That's why I look.
Well, so, are you waiting on Jeremy? So good to see you. And our daughter. Of course she did. I love her. Good to see you.
Well, see, we started out there.
Oh,